This session's for anyone that wants to buy a business, anyone that's been interested to start a business, anyone that is slightly entrepreneurial. And this is the thing as property investors, you are already running a business. Property is a game of business, right? If it is a 5% rental yield and a 5% capital growth, that's a business giving you a 10% return on the value of the thing. So business is exactly the same. So what we actually got is something a little bit different. This week, we're bringing on a guy named Andrew Morello. And if you ever watched the Apprentice Australia, you would have seen he would have won it. He got mentored by Mark Burus, and a super interesting guy. He has literally mentored thousands of business owners about how they can take their investing to the next level in the world of business. But not just that, he is a auctioneer, a real estate agent, a property manager. He's done it all. He's called over 2,500 auctions. He has owned 9 properties throughout his career, residential, commercial, all of this stuff we're going to unpack, but he's got such an interesting insight. So as a property investor, you're probably more entrepreneurial than you think. And is there an opportunity within business for us to take our investing to the next level? Because a 10% return on 5% yield and a 5% growth, that's 10% return. Can we make that any better? Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Oz Property Investors, Australia's largest property investment community. We got 82,000 members, and each week we interview top property experts, anyone to do with property. You got to be a fly on the wall as we unpack their lessons learned. And tonight is Andrew Morello of the Entourage. He mentors business owners throughout all of Australia, throughout the world actually, and has some real insights into that space. We've got Steve Palise as the co-host. Let's dive in. I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little less Joe and Jeff banter, but it's got some absolute golden nuggets. Let's see. And we are live. Welcome to Oz Property Investors. We bring the big names and we have the big fun. How are you, Andrew? How are you, Steve? You guys well?
I'm fantastic.
Yeah, we're live from the UK again, Joe. Spent a week in Glastonbury, going to be in Croatia this weekend, and then back to reality after my 2-month trip.
Hey, stop making us jealous, mate. Seriously.
You've traveled just
day.
Just got back from Cambodia and Vietnam, actually, which was great.
Yeah, it's great. I worked 16 hours yesterday. I'm going to do another 16 hours today. What am I doing wrong? That is the the question.
I think we'll discuss that in this live stream.
Yeah, and we'll talk a bit about that because, when I met Morello, I was in awe of you, man, because you got back from Burning Man in America and you're traveling, and we've got a few stories and stuff we can tell as well. But I was like, how's this successful business guy with lots of properties and business doing all this? And that was the start of our journey together.
Yeah, it was a beautiful journey. So I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later. So I'm looking forward to it. Or do you want to talk about it now?
Well, let's introduce who we've got here, because I'm excited for this session, and this session for me is a little bit of a greedy one. It's one of these ones that I've wanted to talk about business and somehow relate it to property and kind of weave it in. You are so for those that don't know, this is Andrew Morello, also known as Mr. Morello. He is
just Morello. Trust me.
There's no okay.
The doctor. I don't know if we're gonna maybe a doctor in something, but not quite. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, you are a part of and help run one of Australia's largest entrepreneurial communities called the Entourage. So if you don't know what that is, check it out, because it is bloody massive. But also from a property side of things, you've been a part. You're a auctioneer, so you've been a part of 2,500 auctions. You've done over 1,000 property transactions. You've coached thousands of business owners. So why I was super interested to get you on is because you haven't just done resi, you haven't just done commercial, you haven't just done industrial, you haven't just done business. You've kind of encapsulated all of that into one, and it's an awesome opportunity to have you on here and also have Steve Palise from the commercial side of things, and just unpack some wisdom.
Think it's worth mentioning as well, Joe. He won the first Apprentice TV show and then got mentored by Mark Burus back in the day.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah.
It was a great opportunity. 10,000 people tried out. I didn't even take it very seriously. It was one of my property developers, Spiro Veseliadis down in Melbourne. He's like, oh, I've nominated you to go on this show. And I'm like, what do I got to do? And he's like, you got to fill out this form. It was the night before the form was due. And he rang me and he said, have you done it? It's due at midnight. And I said, listen, I haven't done it. And I was still in the office back then. I was in traditional real estate, listing, managing and selling real estate and calling auctions every Saturday, 5 auctions a Saturday. And he goes, look, listen, just jump on there and just fill it out, see what happens. And I filled it out, made the top 100 in Victoria initially at the Rendezvous Hotel in Flinders Street in Melbourne. Then I made the top 100 in Australia, made the top 12 on the show, and then was lucky enough to win the show. And then, so it was with the prize money was like 250 grand. And instead of taking the cash, I took shares in Yellow Brick Road.
Wow.
And I thought Mark Burus would appreciate something like that, a little bit, something outside the box. And I said, look, I don't need the money. What I do need is the opportunity to be surrounded by, great mentors and people that are going to elevate me to the next level.
Incredible.
That's why
so you came up with that idea.
That is exactly why
I won the show before I said that to him, but yes, that's how it all transpired.
So what are people going to learn tonight? So we've got a bit of a session planned. One is to kind of learn a little bit about you, Andrew, and your history throughout property and how you've kind of evolved and into business. We're then going to talk about the difference between residential property, the difference between commercial property, but also the difference between business investing, and I guess how to know if that's the right avenue for you. And then also going through like entrepreneurial hierarchy. How do you start to evolve and grow as a business person? So the thing is with property investing is everyone who's buying a property is buying a business, right? It has its own little P&L.
Correct.
It's got its own asset there. You've got to treat property like a business. And I find there's so many property investors out there that are into business. So there's gonna be a whole heap to learn today. But
Andrew, Andrew, I went to one of Andrew's seminars 7 years ago, and I remember him actually specifically saying that. He said, if you own, was it more than 2 or 3 properties? He's like, if you own more than 2 properties, you're in the business of owning properties.
Yeah. And it's an underestimation of a lot of people, right? They're like, oh, I'm a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, and I do property investing on the side. And I'm like, well, are you sure? Because like, I'm pretty sure you're pretty heavily weighted into property investment, right? So it was a big conversation that we had.
Yeah, nice. So I got introduced to you by Morello by Steve Palise. How did you guys meet? Because you said we've got a pretty interesting story, and I'm like, great, tell me all about it. Like, no,
I'm not going to tell you because I think this is great content. And I said, I feel like Steve needs to tell his story.
All right, so the Morello story started 8-9 years ago, something like that, at a bar at 2 a.m. in the city. I had a little bit too much to drink.
Sydney CBD.
Sydney CBD. I assume Morello had a bit too much to drink as well. And then I saw him, because I watched the Apprentice TV show. I was like, hey, Morello, the guy who won the Apprentice TV show, and had a bit of a chat. And then we started talking property. And then Morello was like, oh, I mean, a couple of weeks, I'm actually going to do Kokoda. It's like really looking forward to it, training for it, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like in my drunken state, like, F yeah, I want to do Kokoda as well. I'll come with you. And he thought,
we're raising money for Seed Foundation Australia for Indigenous education in the medical space. So that's what we were doing, but continue.
Yeah. And then I was like, yep, give me your number. I'll pay on Monday. I'll come along. I'll sponsor. I'll do all the charity work, etc. And
I thought he was just a guy that's just going to say shit to me at 2 o'clock.
The next morning.
I don't know how to swear, but like 2 o'clock in the morning, I was like, oh, he's just telling me that. And then,
Monday morning, registered, paid, messaged Morello, being like, I'll see you in Kokoda in Papua New Guinea.
And then we did 9 days in the jungle, crossing the Kokoda Trail where Australia fought Japan in World War II, and it was just a beautiful experience to bond, both Steve and I, but more importantly, just really have a good understanding of what it means to be Australian, in my opinion. Like I know there's people from all around the world logging onto this, but I think the Kokoda Trail is just something that just really cements, as somebody who's a first generation Australian, and my parents came on a boat in 1956 from Italy. I think I realized at that point that, I really love who I am, which is an Australian, and what that means to be Australian, because they were relentless and they just believed in particular values. Those values and those vision of values, I think, continue to permeate through everything I do in life.
Yeah. We also had an awesome group. We had like one of the leading Victorian real estate agents. We had a guy who was blind.
Adrian Butera.
Blind at age 16. And so we had to guide him through it as well. We had school teachers. Who else we have? We had your mate, the bodybuilder who owns gyms. Like, it was just a really cool group. But flowing on from that, obviously me and Morello bonded because we spent a couple of weeks in the jungle together. And just personally and professionally, he's mentored me and my business since then.
Well, it was a funny story. I will just mention Ben Pentacle, because we actually booked originally to do it in 11 days, but Ben is blind but really, really fit, where I'm not fit but not blind. And it was just this beautiful symbiotic relationship between the non-fit guy with a whole bunch of fit people and the blind guy that's really fit with the non-fit guy who's visually able. And it was just like this beautiful symbiotic relationship, and it still continues today. I'm very close with Ben and his wife Amy, and they're a big supporter of my youth summit that I'm doing next week in Port Macquarie. They've both spoken there before, and like, it's just a beautiful relationship that we started. But it was just great because it was like this. There's a movie in the 80s. I don't know if anyone's old enough that's watching this might remember it, but it was like the guy from Willy Wonka. What's his name? The Willy Wonka guy. The original
Charles?
Willy Wonka. The original Willy Wonka actor. What's his name? With the curly hair. But there's a movie about one of them is deaf and one of them is blind, and I'm like, that was us on the Kokoda Trail. So it was definitely very entertaining. And probably the best story I've got from that is that when we finished and we got to Kokoda, I ended up using my Morello powers and finding for a good old Aussie Australian guy who hasn't had a beer for 10 days or 11 days and is, blind in the jungle. I brought him a slab of beer with a bucket of ice, and he was like, how have you done this in the middle of the jungle? I said, don't worry, that's my prerogative. But I said, what the biggest important thing we need to talk about is how many times you nearly died over the last 9 days. That he had no idea, that he nearly slipped off a cliff, and he had no idea. And it was just the ignorance is bliss. Like, he had no idea that he was nearly going to die, but anyway.
Remember the one he stepped on a hornet's nest, like a bee's nest, and then was just off running as they're stinging him on the edge of a cliff by himself, a blind guy. Like, it was just,
and it was like half an inch off falling off the side of a cliff, and he's got still no idea to this day of how close he got. Then there was another one. We found a snake. I've got a great video of Steve like getting a snake with a stick, and I'm like, there's a snake there, and he's like, don't worry, I've got it. Steve was like, I've got it, and he's like flicking the snake off the side of the cliff. So anyway, it was an amazing experience. I'm not trying to deter anyone from doing the Kokoda Trail, but listen, you'd be prepared to be open to a few adventures.
One of the last things I want to mention about that is it's very hard to complain how hard something is when you've got a blind guy behind you doing it. Like, you keep your mouth shut, and you suck it up, and you get through it.
Correct. And I totally agree. I concur, Steve. I concur.
Yeah, you guys have known each other for bloody ages. That's ridiculous. And it was only a couple of weeks later, right? Like, it was, okay, we're having some beers at 2:00. Oh, right, now I'm in Kokoda.
Yeah. That's generally the Morello journey. I'm just letting you know. Joe, like, you might get yourself stuck into something with Morello at some point.
That's probably a good segue. Do you want to maybe give us the Morello journey, just from the start, from the apprentice or real estate onwards to apprentice to kind of where we are now?
Well, because you bought your first property at 18, didn't you? Like,
I did. I did, but I think probably it needs to start slightly earlier. So I was very lucky to have grown up in an entrepreneurial household. So I had great parents that were very supportive of my non. At the time, like my brother had studied accounting and gone into property after it. My sister had gone to Oxford University over in the UK. So I came from a family of a mechanic and a housewife, which, by the way, anyone watching that is a housewife, like it's just as important, in my opinion. So, like, you know, being an amazing mother to the children is probably the harder job, in my opinion. But so I'm not dismissing it in any way or demeaning it. But importantly, I had parents that were very supportive. Like we had a brother, a sister, and myself. And my mum was actually on the ladies auxiliary board at 3 schools simultaneously: St. Monica, St. Bernard's, and Ave Maria down in Mooney Ponds. For those of you who don't know about Mooney Ponds, it's famous for 3 things. First thing it's famous for is Dame Edna Everage, so the drag queen from Mooney Ponds. The second thing is so Barry Humphries. The second thing it's famous for is the Mooney Valley Racecourse, and the second biggest race in the country, which is the Cox Plate. The third thing it's famous for is Underbelly Series 1. Everyone got shot there, but I survived. So it's a positive. And I live in Rose Bay now. So obviously it's all worked out pretty good. But importantly, I had very supportive parents that supported my entrepreneurial endeavors. At 14, 15 years old, I had an idea that I wanted to run drug and alcohol-free youth events in Mooney Valley. And I went to my dad and asked him to give me the money to help me. And he's like, I'm not going to give it to you. You need to work it out for you. He goes, go do a business plan. I did the business plan. And then I came back at like 14, 15 years old. And he's like, I'm not giving you the money. You need to go and find it. And I think that's good parenting. In hindsight, at the time, I was pretty angry. But in hindsight, John Morello Sr. did a very good job of setting a foundation there. I went to the Mooney Valley Council, and a lady named Carol Espinosa gave me an opportunity. She gave me a $10,000 government grant, you know, for drug and alcohol-free events, and through the Freezer program in Victoria. I then subsequently started. Yeah, 14. Yeah, started running events, and you know, that business was one of the first businesses I sold, and it basically set me up for success for a lot of the future of my life. And I'm still friends with Carol. I love her 4 sons. She's got 4 sons, and we're effectively brothers. And we've been all around the world together, and I was with Carol literally about a month ago down in Melbourne, and she goes, I still remember you walking in your school uniform with your tie done up and your blazer on, which is probably the first time I did that, and pitched us this idea to run drug and alcohol free events in Mooney Ponds. Off the back of that, bought into real estate. Obviously was never destined to do university. And
what age did you sell the business? Like,
I sold the business at 19, 18, 19. Yeah. It took about 12, 13 months to finalize the deal. But at that point, my brother, who had set a really good example, John Morello, one of the directors of Jealous Craig down in Melbourne, he had sort of said, look, listen, I think, you know, real estate's going to be a great thing for you. And I had gone and studied my real estate agent's rep at Broadmeadows University, Broadmeadows TAFE, which was like the Bronx. I don't know if anyone knows Broadmeadows, but back then, now it's nice, but back then it was the Bronx. And I went and studied my agent's rep, which my mum drove me to in a VN Calais. And in 1991, she would drive me to there, and I was 17 still. My mum sadly passed, so like it brings up emotions. But mum used to drive me there and literally wait in the car park while I'd do night school while I was finishing year 12. And I started my real estate career at 18 with Adrian Butera, who did the Kokoda trial with us. And it was. I won a whole bunch of Real Estate Institute of Victoria awards. Won a whole bunch of Real Estate Institute of Australasia awards. I competed in the Novice Auctioneer Awards, and I came runner-up, ironically, to an amazing woman who's in real estate, in Jealous Craig down in Melbourne at Doncaster, Sophie Houston. She's got a married name now, but you always remember who you lost to. And anyway, Morello of the story, she she won. I then went on to the Australasians, came second in the Australasians, came 8th in the Australasians. So I've never won anything in my life. I just won life. That's all I've won. And then had a great real estate career. Then did the Apprentice, Mark Burus, and then off the back of that, obviously invested in the Entourage and have had a great experience with the great man Jack DeLosa, my business partner, one of my best friends, and the rest is history.
One of the people asked about Mark Burus, like what was like working with him.
Are you asking that question?
Yeah, I'm asking that question.
You're asking that question. He's ironically a very positive experience for me. The reason why I asked if you're asking that question is some people would say it was a bit of hard work. For me, it was a very positive experience to the point where we catch up probably every week to second week, and we have chats and we talk about life, and gives me great advice on everything. But for anyone who follows Mark Burus, watches the Mentored podcast and listens to him and so forth, like obviously a serious operator, like, you got to remember he's come off the back of being mentored by people like Nick Palise, and who's one of the biggest car importers, exporters in Australia, and Kerry Packer, James Packer's father. For those who aren't old enough to know who Kerry Packer was, guy who paid $20 tax and went to the government in a royal commission and said, why would I give you guys any more? Because the Australian government doesn't know how to actually spend the money correctly. And so obviously won the hearts and minds of the rest of Australia. But Mark is an amazing man who's changed a lot of people's lives, and I've been very, very lucky to have spent some quality time with Mark, and obviously I see him as a great mentor, a second father to some respects. My father won't be upset with me saying that, and great man.
Awesome.
Yeah, must be. What are some of the key, like what makes him different? Because he is an absolute weapon, like absolute savage. Like what are the key, like little things that he does that you're just like, oh, okay, his oven runs a lot hotter than normal people, and this is why he's successful.
Up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every single day. So don't be surprised if you're receiving text messages at 5:45, 5:50 with ideas and things that he wants to implement. He's started this new thing called Project 100, which is him to live to 100. So he's about to turn 70 in the next coming days. So this week sometime he turns 70, and like he's definitely got what it takes to get to 100 plus. I'm going to assure you of that. It's not abnormal for him to be in the boxing ring with like a Danny Green or a pretty serious boxer giving it a solid nudge. Like I'm hoping, like when I caught up with Danny Green last time at Crown in Melbourne, he was like, oh, I went easy on him. And I'm like, mate, it looks like he gave you a run for your money. And he's like, oh, mate, I went easy on him. I'm like, all right. So, Mark doesn't shy away from a bit of a challenge. I think I think that's probably one of the big fundamentals. And then the other thing is he drilled into me from day one, when we weren't as close as obviously we are now, that you need to play to your strengths and work on your weaknesses, right? So I still remember doing between Mark and I, we sort of signed up 135 Yellow Brick Road wealth management businesses across Australia over, let's call it a 9-10 year period. And one of the big things he said was, he said Wayne Bennett, who, for those who might be from New South Wales or from, an eastern state that's not a AFL state, they, a very famous NRL coach, and he said, like, Wayne used to always talk about play to your strengths and work on your weaknesses. One of the parts of my job was to actually build a the agreements, like back then, were effectively a startup. There was like 10 of us in an office when I first started with him. Then there was like 150 all overnight. And he said, I said, why am I sitting here till fucking, oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but why am I sitting here till like,
do it, do what you want,
like till 10:30 at night doing a franchise agreement? And he said, because you don't know what's in it. And he said, if you play to your strengths and working your weaknesses, like your strength is people, but like, what about the detail? And it was a really good lesson for me to learn around like, okay, so I sat there till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night building these agreements that would take a lawyer 20 minutes to do. And I did it because he made a really good point that I needed to elevate myself to the next level and get smarter, more vigilant, more reflective at the detail. And so, yeah, I did that. And it definitely came into use later on in life. I can assure you of that.
That's so good. Yeah, super interesting because he's a very sharp player. One of the questions I've got, I know there's a lot of property investors in this that's watching this right now that may be entrepreneurs, but they don't know it. Like, how do you know you're an entrepreneur, or how? Because I mean, I started.
Joey, save that to the end when we do the hierarchy, I reckon, because that's gonna nicely.
Okay. Yes, nice.
But, I think now while we're on the journey, let's keep going on the journey. So it was Yellow Brick Road, won the apprentice. Maybe with credibility, obviously, I think you got 9 properties residential. You build up to that at some point.
Correct. Yeah. So I had to sell a couple in the high interest rates, Steve. I don't know if I updated you on that, but welcome to the realities of life. And it's a good conversation to have. Like, I think, and this is where it also ties back into entrepreneurialism. Like, at the end of the day, cash flow is always an important conversation to have. The challenges of being up. Like, and I still remember my financial advisor, who was one of Mark Burus's right-hand men, saying to me, just remember interest rates are like 2.5% with the RBA. They're like 3.5% now with us. But at one point they're going to be 6 or 7%. And I'm like, that's never going to happen. So these are the naivety of it, right? So, but a big conversation to have a look. Off the back of that, we do live in the greatest country in the world, the land of opportunity. Whether you love or hate the 4 banks, it's all understandable. But Burus actually taught me the fact that, like, they're a necessary evil in order to keep the stability of the great trajectory that property does have in Australia, whether it's residential, commercial, or whatever, right? So, like, I think at the end of the day, keeping that stability is obviously keeping what Australia is, which is that you have an opportunity, whether you're a new Australian, an immigrant Australian, someone who came here on a boat, you still got an opportunity to build wealth for yourself as long as you make the magic happen.
Yeah. Well, you've called 2,500 auctions. Maybe this is a bit more of a shorter one. Like, what are some of the clear mistakes that you see property investors that go out and try and buy a property at auction? Like, how can we? Because you're there to
I don't know if this is going to be a short answer. I don't know if you're all wondering if it's going to be a short answer.
Inversely, Joe, what's the benefits of selling at auction versus putting it on the market?
Well, let's start with question number 1. So question number 1, the buying at auction. Look, a great auctioneer, and I'm not being arrogant or hubris, but I think I would hope people see me as a great auctioneer. Like, I think a great auctioneer is great at evoking emotion. So I'll repeat the words: evoking emotion, right? And whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, whatever it might be, whether it's horse auction. Like, I've gone and studied horse auctioneers. Anthony Gaffer, the number 1 horse auctioneer online in the world. He's one of my very close friends. I've watched and studied him. I've been to stock and agent auctions all around the world, including Texas and all around Australia and so forth. So, like, I can see, how our stock agents do it as well. I think a great auctioneer evokes emotion. And so, like, one of the challenges of buying at auction, especially in a seller's market, is getting caught up in the emotion of it all, right? And it's not stupid. Like I helped one of one of the Entourage staff bid on Saturday via FaceTime while I was in the Gold Coast speaking at a conference. I said to her, yeah, put me on with you and your husband to help you bid. And she bid, and her budget was, a couple of million, and she was very clearly over her budget at 2.2 million, but she kept on going because, and she didn't end up getting it, but like she got caught up in the emotion of buying at auction, right? And that's what a great auctioneer does. He or she evokes emotion in the preamble, and then like a great auctioneer can get through the rules and conditions, like making it feel like it's not a big thing. Yeah, the glory. So certainly one of the pitfalls of auction is that. At the same time, I think if it's your principal place of residence, then I agree going over your budget. Like I'm like, okay, and this is what I say to people. I go, you're going to buy this place. How long are you going to own it for? Possibly 30-year loan, a 30-year loan at, or a 25-year loan, whatever it might be. Like you amortize the extra 20, 30, 40, 50 grand you went to buy the home that you really want to be in, that your daughter or son has picked. And, as a good agent, we used to always go like, say to the kids, what's your room? Like it was standard sales operating procedure. Like, how do you, get them to get the children to buy in, you get the children to buy in, you get the wife to buy in, you get the wife to buy in, you get the husband to buy in, or whatever. Like, I've worked in predominantly, gay areas or homosexual areas where they want to buy properties there, and they dual income owners, right? And it was the same problem. Like, you got two guys making, or two women making 300-400 grand a year. They had like a big account of money to spend. And you would talk to them about like, is this where you want to be? Yes, it is. Okay, well, look, the auction's booked for 2.4 to 2.6. If it gets to 2.6, are you still going to be in the game? Yes, we are. Like, they're like, okay, well, we've made a decision on this. The thing would sell for 2.9, 3.2 million. We'd get that morning, we'd get an email from, Fair Trading saying you've underquoted. I'm like, man, I didn't underquote. I had two couples that make 300-400 grand each like each individual makes 300-400 grand, and they don't have any kids. They don't have any financial obligations, and they wanted this property. Let me give you the hot tip. This is called the free market. This is called capitalism. Like, they fell in love with it. The emotion kicked in, and now you're trying to have a go at us for being a great auctioneer that's going to draw every dollar out for our vendor who's paying us. And they'd be like, oh, sorry, Mr. Morello, we agree. Sorry, we apologize. And I'd be like, guys, like, I'm not being rude, but like, you've got two very capable couples that are very successful in their own right, and they're wanting to buy the property that is going to be the property for them. And so they're the pitfalls of buying at auction, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't get caught up. Don't get caught up in the emotion. Are there any ticks and tactics that we can use? Like, really, it's really who has their hand up the longest, right? Like, there isn't any.
Do you want me to? No, I've got a tip and a trick, but the auctioneers are going to hate me if I say this. So it's called cooking the auction. So if it's quoted for like 2 to 2.2 million and your budget is 2.3, 2.4, and this is the house you want to buy, auctioneers, the number one thing they hate is called cooking the auction. It's an internal thing amongst the brotherhood and sisterhood of auctioneers. And so basically what we do is we try and start it low. If we're quoting 2 to 2.2, we started at 1.8 on purpose to get everyone involved in the process. There is a tip and trick, which is called cooking the auction. If your budget is 2.2 and they're quoting 2 to 2.2, it's probably going to get there, guys. No offense, in this current market, it's probably going to get there. Maybe in a buyer's market, it's not going to get there. So like, if your budget's 2.2, start the auction at 2.15. Auctioneers will hate you and you'll get the death look. But if you're trying to buy a property, there's some advice that I've given you.
Yeah, because you've just wiped out all the other people that would have got emotionally involved.
Correct, Steve. Like that, that's exactly like. And when I bid, I'm not a buyer's agent or anything. So I don't charge any of my friends or family or anyone that asks me to bid for them. But when I bid for them, I'm like, what's your budget? They're like, 2.25. What are they quoting? 2.2. I'm like, okay, we're going to start the auction at 1.18. And they're like, oh, that's a bit high. I'm like, it's not. It's going to get there. Trust me. It's going to get there. And then, like, the people that have missed out when it sells for 2.3, they're like, oh my God, you were so right. I'm like, I know I was right. I was going to be right from the start. I'm not being arrogant, but like, I know. After 2.5, like, I've watched my brother call about 3,000 auctions. I've watched Adrian Butera call about 2,000 auctions. And I've called 2,500 auctions myself. Like, I'm like, I know what's going to happen. And like, if you want to give it a solid crack, this is how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Do you recommend doing auctions typically in sellers markets as opposed to buyers markets?
Look, I think an auction is always a good. So it's a really great question, by the way, Steve. Like, a really great question, because I feel like in a buyer's market, vendors, whether it's residential or commercial, feel like a auction is not a good process. They're like, why are you selling me an auction? Like, you're pushing me to do something that I don't think's good for me right now, because they're reading the bullshit newspapers, the propaganda, right? Like, they're reading that's saying, oh, it's a buyer's market, rather. You got to remember the process of auction, and literally I can show you some data on my phone right now. The process of auction brings people to a head. So I've got a property developer in Melbourne right now, in Williamstown, he does high-end Williamstown property. So someone I've known since I was 18 years old when I started my career. And he sent me the link. He's gone with Jealous Great, thank God. But he sent me the link, and he said, oh, are you able to auction this? I said, look, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but if you'd like me to do it, I will. But I said to him, what are you quoting? And he's told me what he's quoting. And I said, okay. And then he goes, with unprovoked, he wrote the answer, I'd like to knock it off prior to auction, right? So there's a vendor, verbatim, guys, word for word, and I can show you the text on my phone saying that he wants to knock it off prior to auction. So here's a guy who's a veteran in the property industry, who's gone to auction, not hoping to get to auction. So what it does is it brings everyone to a head very quickly. It creates a thing called urgency, and I think it brings all the players on the table when they need to be. The problem with private sale and private treaty and sale by set date and all that, that bullshit. Like, I'm like, mate, you, the problem is like, everybody's onto it now. Like, the buyer is educated now. They have apps on their phone. They say what it's worth. So like, if he wants, let's call it 3 to 3.3 million, and he's probably at 3.4 to 3.5, to be honest. He's probably there. I'll leave names out and properties out for anonymity. He's probably at 3.5. And the agent's gone to him like, listen, that's your dream price. Realistically, let's put it at 3 to 3.3 to create competition. The reality is, this is a lifestyle property near 1 block back from the beach in Williamstown. So it's going to be very emotive. And somebody who's got 3 to 3.5 to spend will make an offer. Is it going to be 3.5? Well, that's my friend / the vendor's, prerogative. The agent's job is to get the offer on paper. And if he's keen to do something prior, well, this is his opportunity to do that.
And also it saves having it's kind of unconditional contract, right? A lot of them
go cooling off. Correct.
Cooling off.
I've personally bought properties where they were going to auction, guys, and then like literally, because I knew it was going to auction, I had to go unconditional, whereas normally would have done a finance and due diligence clause on the commercial, and I'm like, I need to do it all up front and get it under contract.
Yeah. It's a real thing. So, do you do auctions or private sale? Like, every property is individual. I don't disagree, but I think auction does bring it to a head far quicker. And it brings out the real buyers, right? So,
as a buyer, as someone who buys property, like I've bought hundreds of properties, and I can count on one hand how many properties I've bought at auction, because they're never great deals, because they're always of market value.
They're
always
emotive. They're
up really
emotive.
nice.
It's a real thing,
Everyone
right?
loves
So,
it.
and if you get a great auctioneer behind the property, then you know it's extra hard work.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. There's your tip. Try not to buy at auction if you can.
Yeah, I'll get in trouble for saying this, but you also don't, as a buyer's agent, you don't have a relationship with the auctioneer where they can give it to you at a good price. Whereas, not saying it happens, but it does.
Great point.
If you've got a good relationship with a real estate agent, your offer can
Easy.
quite easily make it to the top of the pile and you can get a better buy.
Yeah, I agree.
Not the good ones like Morello, though.
Well, look, it's look. There's and that's a really good conversation to have as well. I think when we talk about like good and bad agents, like I think there is definitely an agents. I remember this study that was done. Real estate agents are at the bottom of the food chain, like from a trustworthy point of view. It was like a study done, right? And it's interesting because we have the alarm codes and the keys to everyone's property. Like, let's just rest on that for a minute. We have the alarm codes. Correct. Right. So, like, I look at that and go, they're not bad people, but you got to remember, I think a misconception that people have is their job is to work for the vendor. Like it's their job. Like, no offense, but that is what their job is to do, is to work for the vendor. So, like, I look at that and go, well, that's generally like the day those two dual income earner, no kids couples bidded away at this property in Seddon next to Yarraville in Melbourne and bought that property. Like, I'm like, well, like, they wanted to buy the property, right? And so when the ACCC knocks on your door and says, "Oh, you underquoted," I'm like, "Well, I didn't underquote. Like, my job is to get the best result for my vendors." They got 5 agents in. All 5 agents said that it was worth XYZ. We all submitted the same submission. Go and subpoena those submissions. And I'm like, well, but if 2 people or 2 couples or 2 individuals really want it, and I've seen it with property development that I've sold as well, like, 4-unit site in Askervale or Kensington or Moonee Ponds, like I've done those auctions as well. And you get 2 developers, one rocks up in a Lamborghini, one rocks up in a bloody Ferrari and wants to show off and try and, showboat the other one. Like, mate, I don't even own a car. I'm more than happy to let a bunch of egos clash heads and butt heads and go lock horns. Like, I'm like, great. Like, the more the merrier, because my job when I call that auction is to get a great result for my vendors. That's my job. Whether I'm getting paid to be a gun for hire for $1,500 plus GST to go and call the auction, or whether my job is to be the person who listed the property, took them through the management process, and sold it. My job is to support the vendor. And I said this to the ACCC, like, it only happened like 2 or 3 times, but I said, like, guys, like, my job is to look after the vendor. I don't know who you're looking after. Like, you're looking after a buyer who's disgruntled because he or she missed out. And I'm like, well, welcome to the free market. Let's get rid of capitalism and go back to communism if you don't want to play this game.
Go back to communism. There's a great question that's jumped up here. Can you cover buying management rights if good option if the yield is working similar to commercial property purchase yields?
Yeah, so is this like so basically what Steve does effectively, like, being a vendor advocate or a buyer advocate? Like, I think 100%, guys, like, like if that's the question you're asking me, or if you're asking Steve, maybe let us know if you're asking either of us. But I think, like, we're a business, and I'm in our office today in the Rabobank building in Sydney. We've got the whole level 5 here. We're a business that believes in employing great minds, like we do it at a business level. But then, like, obviously Steve mentioned that he does work with us as well, and like, we believe in getting great people to actually give us the best advice in order to make the better decisions. So if you're asking, can you justify? Yes, I definitely do justify it. And I've employed many people to do due diligence for me on commercial or residential opportunities. But at the same time, and I've also employed buyers advocates before. So I've employed buyers advocates before.
Were they referring to buying like a management book? That's how I read it, like a real estate management book, which is a business. That's a property management business.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was referring to, is trying to transition this now into the property versus business, because now this Ranjith, you're kind of on the cusp now of transitioning from, I'm a property investor to now I want to buy management rights, so buy a rent roll and then create
so
that
and Rajith, thank you very much for the question. It's a big conversation to have. Like, it's very much a big conversation to have. If you're not already in property management, and can you please put in the notes or the questions to Joe if this is from a residential or commercial point of view, because it does make a difference. But definitely from a residential point of view, if you're looking to buy a book, there's a lot of moving parts that are underestimated. So if you're serious about that, like, we've got one of our success stories at the Entourage. His name's Sunil Kumar. He's based in Melbourne. He's Reliance Real Estate. We've helped him what we do M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions. Jealous Craig down in Melbourne, my brother, also mergers and acquisitions. John Morello out of Jealous Craig, Moonee Valley. It is a good idea, but there's a lot of moving parts. We need to look at, like, how long has the business been with the existing owners? If this is a serious question that people want to know about, how long has the business been with the existing owners? Number one, we as a Morello family would not buy a real estate property management book unless the owner was prepared to come into the business, our business, for at least a 12 to 36 month period. So that's another variable, which I'm happy to discuss offline. Like, we would not do it. We would not do it. Doesn't matter how sexy the book looked. Then we look at things like, what is the average property management percentage? So, like, most of the books being sold in this market are at a very low rate. And that's the reason why the person's gone, I want to cash out. And they're relying on a 2/3/ if you're like a good business, a great business, you can get a 4 to 4.5 times multiple. Like a Jealous Craig business in Melbourne right now is valued by Macquarie Bank and Westpac at a 4.5 times multiple, but we're buying businesses at a 2.5 times multiple because they don't have the nuts and bolts that we do, right? And they're rolling into a 3,500 rent roll, and they're bringing 180 property management, and we're like, okay, we'll pay. If you want 2, we'll give you 2.9, but you need to come and be a part of our business for at least 2 years at a minimum, and we cascade or vendor pay and these are all fairly convoluted, detailed questions, but I'm happy to nut that out with somebody who is in that position after this.
I think that's probably a good segue for maybe we have a bit of a chat about, like, the returns you get from residential, commercial versus buying businesses, for instance. And then you can give a bit of a spiel about, like, profit margins, and even explain for the people who don't understand business what a multiplier is, whether you're doing gross and net and et cetera and things like that. And then we maybe have a bit of a chat around what types of businesses, if you are not as business savvy, what might be an easier business to manage. And then we can go into, like, the hierarchies of whether actually got the personality for it.
Because there's going to be white belt businesses. There's going to be, kind of like what you're talking about there, Morello, is like, it's a purple belt type of situation. And then there's those black belt crazy, like, some crazy tech startup's going to be some wild, black belt situation. So what are some of the returns that we should expect from residential, commercial? So I guess I'll talk on the residential side of things, that's kind of my area. So I guess if you're buying a residential property right now, you can expect, anywhere, the last 30 years, residential property's done 6.9 to 7.2% capital growth year on year, depending on the source that you look at, which is pretty substantial, right? That's doubling every 10 years. And you can expect something like that, 7% compounded, and then a rental yield around that 3.8 to 4.5%, somewhere in between there.
Gross percent as well.
Gross rental yield. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's not net. It's going to be negatively geared. That's something I think that's very important for people that are just starting out buying right now. With interest rates at 6.5%, if your property is at 4%, there is that gap of 2% plus property costs that are going to be on top of it. So if you are buying a $600,000 property right now, it's going to be $18,000 to $22,000 negative a year, which is really challenging in these interest rate environments. So you do have to balance that growth and cash flow side of things. But Steve, commercial, what are we? So I guess that core focus of we're not losing money in residential for the fun of it. We're doing it because we want that capital growth. We want to choose the right market at the right time to get better than 7%, but on average 7%.
Yeah, it's probably worth saying as well, residential, like I always explain it like a big staircase. Like residential, you're only halfway down the staircase. Whereas if you trip, you're going to hurt yourself, but you'll kind of survive because there's less things to go wrong unless you're buying like an off the plan or a high density apartment. As long as you don't buy in a flood zone and things like that, you can weather the storms in a well encapsulated city in the middle of it. You can hold it. Commercial, I would say you're at the top of the staircase because there's way more things to trip up on. That you basically susceptible to the business, how successful they are. The vacancy periods are longer. Our due diligence is 80 to 100 pages long. So there's so many more things you can actually trip up on, but you get 2 to 3 times the net return in regards to cash flow. So, and then we can have a chat about like the capital growth, but just on the cash flow, you'll get 2 or 3. Whereas I think Andrew might agree, business, you're probably at the top of a cliff. So you can, sky's the limit, but you can completely flop and lose all your money. So there's that balance.
It's the old bull and bear, I call it.
Yeah. It's like running through the Kokoda Trail, getting chased by hornets while you're blind kind of situation.
But it's also finishing the Kokoda Trail and getting into the, going through the Golden Arches, like you go through the Kokoda Arches, right? So, there's a moment of elation. Like it's and look, there's no right or wrong, guys. And obviously my disclaimer is this is not financial advice. But I think we live and it's great to have you. You guys still there?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Not financial advice.
Thank you. This is not financial advice. I'm just giving you the hot tip. Always, because I got told that very young. Section 52 of the Fair Traders Act, misleading, deceptive conduct. I'm onto it, bro. But
so what can we expect from business though, and how should we frame that? Maybe a white belt business. Like, what would be a white belt business?
Well, one step back. Just what's a typical profit margin for a business? Because that's going to be the equivalent of like the net return when you're buying. When you're spending
typical is anywhere like ideally between 15 to 25% if you're not out of the normal realm. So food and beverage has fluctuations. One of our biggest clients at the Entourage is a big alcohol company in Australia. They work on 7%, but they did like 1.2 billion last year, right? So it's a volume game, right? So you look at that and go, okay, that's that. But like a mum and dad business, let's call it food and beverage, they've got a nice restaurant in Bankstown or Moonee Ponds or whatever. They should be aiming for anywhere between 17 to 25% net profit before tax, and there is tax involved in that. But if you're a small business owner in Australia who's not minimizing their tax, this is not tax advice, but if you're not minimizing your tax, then I'd really tell you to get a new accountant. Maybe
like Kerry Packer, you need your head.
Maybe an Italian accountant, and I've got a couple for you. So I think at the end of the day, if you're running all your costs through, or you're not running any of your costs like lifestyle costs through the business, it's the only way to survive in Australia. Like as I said, this is not tax advice, but I'm like the reality is. Small business does afford a good lifestyle. We probably have like 3 kinds of people that come to us at the Entourage from a vision point of view. First one is lifestyle. They want to have a business that does $2-3 million a year with a net profit before tax of like 600K. They look after their staff and they're in a position to go and spend time with their kids. The second group of people that come to us, they're like, okay, I've got 2 restaurants now, and they're called Morello Party, .com, right? And they're like, okay, we got two, we got one in Western Sydney, we got one in eastern suburbs. How do we go from 2 to 15, right? And that might be, franchising or licensing or whatever it might be, all kept in co. So that's the scale conversation. The third group of people that come to us is like, I've had the restaurant for 20 years and I'm done. Like my wife's over it, my husband's over it, whatever, whoever's over it, like it's done. Or my life partner's over it. Can we actually box it up so it is a saleable and scalable asset for somebody else? And so that's probably the big conversation that we're having with people right now. But they're the three sort of like lifestyle, scale, and sale, or some sort of exit of some sort. Like we're working with Peter Hull right now, and Peter Hull was the founder of Fitstop, and he's been their gyms, and like he's looking at different opportunities to work with like venture capital, private equity, and so that's probably the third biggest story that we're talking about right now.
I want to touch back on the numbers because it's probably worth pointing out. So like with property, obviously you got leverage, which is the benefit, is the cash on cash return. But like just off the numbers, if you're buying cash, like Joe, you mentioned, you're probably on a 2.5% net yield plus your 7% capital growth. We're talking 9, let's say 10% return on investment with property, with residential. Commercial, let's just pretend we get less capital growth, let's say 3-4%, but I'm getting 6% net return. I'm getting my 10% with property. Business, like you mentioned, Andrew, 20%. So we're getting twice as much return with owning a business. But there's leverage that comes into it. Residential, you can leverage up 90%. So the cash on cash can be magnified to say, I think when I look, residential is about 18%. Commercial cash on cash, you can actually get up to kind of 18-20% as well. But then you can still leverage business, buying into a business. And like, what's your experience with like, what type of deposit do you need when buying a business? So it's $1 million profit business.
Steve, great question. It depends on the business you got, right? Or the business you're potentially looking to buy. So we've got some really good lenders out there right now. And like, don't anyone yell at me when I say this, but like, there's some really good companies, including some big four. So Kudos Bank is somebody who's looking at like cash flow funding and things of that nature. You've got Judo Bank in the property management space. You've got Westpac and you've got Macquarie Bank. They're probably the four that are most flexible right now. So that's like, and I'm not endorsed by any
to acquire a business.
To acquire a business, correct. So to acquire in a business, they generally, a lot of them will try and hit you up straight off the bat. Like, how much property do you own? Can we take that as security? That's what they're going to do. They're not going to want to lose the deal. So then they'll be like, the next level down is like, show me the cash flow of the business and like what deposit you have. So if the owner of the business wants 1.5 million, can you put 500K in cash, or offset against your residential or commercial real estate portfolio? Can you offset it? They may not make you transfer it over, but you may need to sign a guarantor for the properties, which they'll take what we call a second mortgage on the property. So keep that in mind. You can't sell that without their approval. So you just keep that in mind as well. And then there are some very, conventional banks doing that. There is a third option, which is private money, right? And like, nobody likes to talk about it. It's a bit taboo in Australia. I live in Rose Bay, which is a Jewish community, and there is some great Jewish investor families that are keen to invest with business owners that they believe in. So you do need to put a great proposal forward. Same in Caulfield and in Melbourne and Alstonwick. Same across, like, not just the Jewish community, but also the private family money community. Like, they're keen to have a proportion of their portfolio that's slightly high risk, where they'll go, okay, we'll take this punt because you've put a really good business plan forward. So like, a prime example is like, in my world, if you're a successful operator and Macquarie Bank's trying to, extort you for 8% return on your property management book, these guys might go, we'll match the 8% because you don't have it might be no recourse on the no recourse on the loan. They might take a lien on the portfolio that you bought, but like these are like different things, guys, that like this is
There's
where
so many different variables.
Yeah, but Steve made a really good point before. It's like getting good advice, guys. Like, don't worry about us in the entourage. I'm just saying, like, in general, get some good advice. Accountants, in my experience, and I've got a great accountant, but in my experience, accountants are very conservative. So, like, there are options out there. Private money is out there, and you could do it as a raising capital. You could do it as a debt funding, which is what they call a conversion note, where you convert the debt into shares at some point. And like, the good operators that are raising capital have what they call buy-sell agreements to make sure that they can buy the shares back when the business, not if, psychology first, when the business succeeds.
Yeah. So I guess as property investors, one of the biggest things that we think about is that it's so far removed. Like residential's here, commercial's here, business is all the way over here. Can you just paint the picture of how easier it is to get into a business, to buy a business as an investor? Like, is it easier than I think? Because right now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what the steps would be, or to be actually in reality, it's probably more like a here. Do we need a shitload of capital? It sounds like maybe yes, but also you could get away with having a decent portfolio.
It's probably worth mentioning as well, you can invest in a business, and I'm not speaking out of turn, but like Morello has invested in a lot of businesses. So like he's not actually necessarily running them per se, but he's invested in the business.
Yeah. So Steve's just hit on a great point. So you got two options, right? Option A is buy the business outright. And yes, there is a financial commitment at some shape or form at that point to do that. But there's also just investing in other businesses. Like, if you've got a, and I've met a lot of good at the home buyer and investor expos. I've spoken to a lot of those over the last like 13, 14 years. Maybe.
So was it home buyer investor?
Home buyer property and investor expos. It's a tongue twister.
Like
they do it at the ICC across the road over there, and I've spoken at them nationally. And I meet a lot of people that ask a very similar question to this. They're like, and it's funny because I ask them, what are you doing now? And they're like, oh, I work for NAB or PwC or Ernst & Young, and I'm on like 460 grand, but I'm a property investor, or I'm a PwC, Ernst & Young, NAB, or some law firm, and they go, oh, but I bought into a food and beverage business. And I'm like, okay, great. Tell me about it. And they're like, tell me. And I'm like, have you ever been in food and beverage? No, I've never been in my life. And I'm like, okay, well, like, I think there's a massive misconception with like people that have done well financially, or people that are new Australians that have come here and they're like, okay, I'm going to study hard, get a great job, job, just over broke in my opinion, but anyway, that's another conversation, and go, look, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go buy a food and beverage business. I'm like, have you ever done food and beverage? No. And I'm like, well, it's a whole different business, guys.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a coach?
This question just came up just now, which I think ties in nicely to what you're saying. The question is, any type of businesses you should avoid, and I guess that one there is a prime example of, well, if you don't know what the business is or what the business does, it's probably not going to be the best fit for you.
Correct.
I'm not going to go ahead and buy a food and beverage business. I promise you that, or a restaurant.
I'd probably say your business and my business show a testament to that. We're really good at property, and then we started a business and realized we don't know anything about running businesses, and that's been the steep learning curve, not the actual buying property part.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
It's a real thing. And I've got
it made me
sorry,
realize.
sorry, Joe, you go.
Well, it made me realize that, like having run the business for about 5 years now, it's made me realize that I could run most other businesses that are a service-based business, and the things here that I need to do over here are the same things that I would need to do over here for an accounting company, a mortgage broking company. It's all very much the same parts and components. A bit like a tree lopping company, you would have people out there in the field doing the things, and you don't realize how together everything is. I used to think that it would just be, a buyer's agency business is one thing and it's completely separate to all of these other things, but they're all.
I think Morello's going to agree with me, but even running different type services businesses is completely different game, because it's different clientele, different marketing types, different internal systems, the way you treat clients and the longevity of them, even how you price the services is different for high turnover businesses versus low turnover versus lots of quantity and not quantity. That change, and that's actually what I've learned with the Entourage, is actually even just things like pricing. It's dependent on what you're actually charging initially.
And like, I think the reality is, guys, that like you need to get smarter and around finding like what is and this is probably a nice segue into the 4 pillars, or let's call it the 4 hats of an entrepreneurial hierarchy, and it might be a nice segue. Do we want to go into this now, or do we want to take a break?
Can we cut back to that last question about any types of businesses we should avoid? Because I saw there's another question about thoughts on future upcoming markets like AI and drones, etc. So maybe just what you've seen with like a lot of emerging businesses, or ones that you've seen are really tough to run. You think like, oh, I'll buy a laundromat. How hard can it be? It's just a few washing machines and it's cash cow kind of thing. But I know someone who's bought laundromats. It's never as simple as you think. We had a client we bought a warehouse, and he's like, oh, cool. And now I'm going to go buy a gym as well, because he's like, oh, I've owned a warehouse. How I can own a gym?
Right next door.
Got the numbers completely wrong. Like he looked at all expenses, just left stuff out like you got to replace the flooring every couple of years, which on something that might be making 150 grand a year, 30, 40 grand of flooring off every couple of years is completely different profit margin.
Yeah. Well, before we go into the entrepreneurial breakdown, let's run to our first sponsor, and then we'll come back and go through a bit more of a deep dive into entrepreneurialism.
Oh, Jeff, I wish there was 3 investing books that covered everything property.
Oh, Joe, there is. Steve has 3 books now.
That I do, guys. I've got 3 books now. You probably don't even have to follow this group anymore. Just kidding. You want to keep seeing and hearing from me, of course, so stay involved. But in all seriousness, if you want to get the full picture of investing, residential, commercial, and development, these 3 books have you covered for the fundamentals. For OzProp members, here's the best part. I'm giving these books to you for free. Just cover the postage and I'll send them right to your door. Go to paliseproperty.com or click the link below and get your copies today. You can also get all my spreadsheets, checklists, and resources free on my website. Happy reading, gang.
All that number, sort it out. Sorry, guys.
That's how efficient Morello is.
That is some efficiency.
I want to tell a little bit. I want to tell a little story, because he mentioned it before about how he doesn't own a car, and he's been selling. Since I've known him, he's like, why would I buy something that depreciates in value? Like, it's
correct.
Ridiculous. And a year ago, when I caught up with him, he's like, Steve, I'm thinking about finally getting a car, and obviously he still hasn't bought a car.
I still haven't bought a car. I'm leaning towards I'm not sponsored, guys, but like BYD or XP. And it's a smart move by them. They've sponsored all the real estate stuff, right? So like it was good because it's been in front of my face,
That's a great idea. Yeah, sponsor real estate and be the name of the real estate guys. Nice. So you've got a bit of a framework here from what's it called? entrepreneurial hierarchy. So
Yes.
I think you're going to try and share your iPad, and it's even worked. How good. Okay, let's do that. Now let me just get the right. There we go. Okay, so what do we got? Right now we can see a pyramid, 4 hats, current and future, and that's it.
Yeah, so I think, guys, like one of the big things, if anyone's looking at buying a business, there's like 4 things you need to take into consideration. So the first one is like what we call technician. So this is, apologize about my handwriting and spelling, but technician is like how much time you spend in that business. So if you're looking to invest in a business, keep that in mind. The second one is like manager. So this is like you being the manager.
Yep. So we can see the 4 hats again. Yep.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
Technician.
Yeah, and I guess when you see people buying businesses, I bet that's one of the things that you see people do is they don't buy really expensive business. They buy like the cheapest one, that may have $100,000 or $200,000 worth of profit, and then they kind of are just buying themselves a technician, buying themselves a job.
Correct. And one of the biggest things that we try and like perpetuate here is like, how much time are you going to spend in technician versus manager versus leader versus entrepreneur? Like none of these are bad, right? Like this is the issue. Like people go, okay, I want to be 0 technician. I'm like, it's not bad to be a technician. If you buy a food and beverage business or you're a builder and you buy another company, like, maybe like getting on site once every 2 weeks is going to be good for you. Like do this 5% of the time. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I think it's a really big conversation that we need to obviously be abreast of and understand like what is the future of the decision that you're making.
Okay.
So the other thing that I had, here we go. Sorry, guys.
Getting squiggly.
I think one of the points as well, Morello, is a lot of these people that have, like you said, day jobs where they're working for as an accountant or whatever, and they want to go invest in this business. They have to be mindful where they're fitting into the business in that hierarchy, and then also time, how much time you've actually got to do it, because it's like me and Joe knowing, with all your businesses, nothing is easy and quick. Like it's always going to take.
Oh, definitely. And the moment you think it's going to be easy and quick is the moment someone else is going to overtake you because they're working full time. Like if you're trying to do 2 businesses part time and both of them you're putting a part time effort into, someone is just going to crush you because they're working full time on one of their businesses and they're going to absolutely kill it.
So, guys, one of the things, if you're watching this, that if you are looking to make a decision on our business, what we call this the 6 elements at the Entourage. Here we go. 6 elements drive growth and enable growth. And I won't go into the detail tonight, but here we go.
You type.
This is probably the most technical session we've ever had, Joe.
I know. You got to remember, guys, that I don't normally do this. So here we go.
There it is.
Marketing.
What's that say? Marketing.
Marketing.
Okay.
Sales, bro. I don't normally use these. Don't yell at me. Product.
No judgment here.
Product / service.
Yeah. And these are the core pillars of any business, right?
Any business, right? So if you're going to buy a business, like you don't need us to do this. So you could do this on your own at home. But you should ask them about all of these 6 pillars and go like, where do we stand in this? Like what is their marketing plan? What is their cost per lead? What is their cost per acquisition? What is their return on advertising spend? Next, what is the sales process? So like CPL, CPA, return on ad spend. Like these are basic questions that if someone doesn't have an answer for you, then you're buying something that's a lemon, in my opinion, right? So like sales, what is the sales process? Right?
But I mean, does this spell as opportunity? Like one of the things that I want to really I want to hear your story, because you were talking about it just before we jumped online, was the buying business from boomers. I imagine the boomers would have sales processes, but you ask a boomer, what is? Oh, can you tell me what the other 3 pillars are just before we go? Can you just?
Oh, okay. No, we're not going. We're not going anywhere. Where are we going? I thought we're staying all night. Product/service, because I think we're all by product/service based businesses. We got operations.
Yeah. How to deliver that product or service.
Yep. And then we've got financial management, finances. And last but not least is people. But I think more than ever with the people that we're speaking to right now, it's about people and culture. Because then once you buy a business, you really need to maintain the culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Pop your.
You want me to jump off?
Yeah, jump back on. Yeah, there you go. What was my question?
I was going to say one of the points I saw a girl, Katie, asked about like the drop ship type of business, how it's so easy. I want your thoughts on this, Morello, because I've read all the 4-Hour Workweek books, and I'm yet to meet someone who's actually done it successfully. I've met literally hundreds who have tried. And because
I've met people who've done it successfully. Like, I don't think it's the 4-Hour Work Week. Like, I think that's Tim Ferriss has done a great job of marketing. I've met Tim multiple times. Like, he's a great guy, and it's a great, like, it's called the 4-minute mile, right? So like Tim, that's what he claims, and then he took what he was able to achieve into now he sells his books and his programs. Like, I think importantly to understand is that, like, is it going to be 4 hours? Probably not. I'm just going to give you the hot tip, guys. Like, it's not a 4-hour work week. Like, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but like, I think if you actually are prepared to go through the journey, there's great 3PL options right now. So third party delivering services like Amazon. I've just partnered with Amazon with one of our businesses called Hop. I was one of the first investors, and I sat on the board of it initially, like 13 years ago, and we finally, have partnered with someone like Amazon. So like, Amazon's great, whether you like Amazon or not. Once again, I'm not endorsed by them. I do have a business that they have a share in, but I think like you need to understand that, guys, like, this is the future. And if you're not prepared to embrace the future, then you're not going to be able to do it. But like, give it a go. Like, don't make any bad financial decisions and throw, your last $100,000 you've got or the $50,000 you got. But like, go, okay, I'm going to give this a crack. I got a product that, I went to the Canton product, a festival in Canton, and like fair. Sorry, thank you. And like, I've got this, that. I'm going to give it a crack. Oh, I'm going to do a third party 3PL. I'm going to do it out of like Amazon, out of like Western Sydney. But like, this is the world that we live in now. So if you're going to give it a crack, guys, but don't be stupid about it, right? At the same time.
Well, I mean, it's so much easier now as well with like AI. Like, you could literally, I mean, I'll do it right now. I'll create a website for a drop shipping business that sells Morello face masks. And like, you can literally create an entire business.
I would buy one of those.
It's just pictures of you. It's just the bottom half of your mouth on the mask.
I imagine with the drop shipping one, when it's not your product, the only real lever you've got in the business, though, Morello, is marketing. Like, you have to market, and then it's probably a higher risk that someone else can come in and market better than you. Whereas with like a service or your own product, at least you own something.
Yeah, and like, so that's a really good topic to bring up. Like, do you own the business? Like, so we get approached by a lot of great social media businesses, right? You don't own that data. So in this market, like, guys, like, data is everything to data points, right? So like, if you don't own 100 points minimum of data on somebody, then you don't exist. Right, like the great businesses like Facebook or Instagram, they own 1 million points of data on you, right? So, but I'm saying for a small business, you need to really be collecting first name, surname, mobile number, email, and ideally postcode, because you want to do geo-specific advertising off the back of your, customer collection, right? You don't want to be advertising to someone on email or on Instagram or Meta, let's call it, or TikTok, that is not in your core area, right? I call it your farm area, right? So like if you go and do that, that's just like burning cash, like literally lighting it on fire.
Yeah.
Mm. So can you talk to us about this boomer business? Because I'm super interested in this.
Well,
because
I went and found the whole thing for you guys, but then you just went off on a tangent. But this is what I call
yeah, that's
the
right. I forgot. It was me and Steve that's been talking the whole time.
yeah. Oh, here we go, Joey. We're gonna have to have a serious conversation.
What do we got
This
here?
is
What do we got
called
here?
the $10 trillion opportunity by Richard Jakim.
Yeah.
Guys, and so this is about baby boomers. So there's a whole market right now of people that are not in a position to pass on their business to generational wealth. And so what they're actually doing now is they are looking for opportunities like you to actually buy their business. And the great thing is a lot of them are open to like what we call vendor terms. So they're buying over a 12, 24, 36-month period and not actually committing long term to the whole situation, and then being a part of it to come in there and just do what they need to do.
That's incredible, because the reason why is there's no succession plan, right? These people they've been teaching their kids and they've been saying you're going to be an accountant, you're going to be a doctor, and they don't want to be a, you know, I guess what like a plumbing business. They don't want to have these. They don't want to have a workshop that does. I can't even think of things.
Joe, I call it the butcher, baker, candlestick maker.
Yes, they don't want to be the butcher, baker, candlestick maker. So these businesses are they're just disappear. They're just I'll just shut up shop and I'll move on. And you can literally buy them for incredibly cheap, but they may be making $5 million worth of revenue and netting $1 million or $500,000 that you could literally go off and buy, and then you get the bank. I mean, now not financial advice, but there are situations just like anything. You can negotiate and negotiate well, where they get a large portion of their capital and then they vendor finance the deposit that the bank requires, right?
Yes.
And then if they don't hit those numbers over, 24 months, like Morello was saying, you don't hit that number, great. Then you get a discount on that money, and you still have the opportunity to pull out of the business or own the business. And just imagine, like, actually, Steve, your guy, Andrew Bean, works with you. This is exactly what he did when he bought a. Do you want to tell a bit more of the story of the place he bought in the South Coast for?
Self-storage. I think he got it for 3.6 mil, 3.8 mil. But he put a 12-month option on it, and he saw a rundown self-storage facility that was doing it old school. Everything was little cardboard things. When they check in their stuff, he writes it on a card, and he's like, you are way undercharging and you don't have the systems and this is way too intensive. So he put a 12-month option where he gets to go in the business, do it, and got it to the point where it was valued at 8 million, refinanced it, effectively got an $8 million asset now with no money down, because he just turned around this old guy. And the guy literally used to sit there drinking whiskey at site all day, every day. And that was his thing. He wasn't doing anything else, and just turned around this boomer that wanted out of the business.
Yeah. And then he digitized it, reduced all of the expenses so that it's all online and not wasting his time. Unbelievable. Such an amazing way to do it. Going back to the AI business, drop shipping business, I just made this website just now called Morello's Masks. Morello Mask. You can buy Midnight Crystal if you want. You can add it to your cart. We've got a contact page. We've got an about.
The Art of Morello. Oh my God, I love this.
What's it called? The Art of
The Art of Morello. Oh my God, it's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
They must
beautiful.
know I'm Italian. That's a Venetian. So they say. It's a Venetian mask. I bought those for my mother when I was in Venice.
Sorry, going back to it. So that's, I think, where the opportunity is, right? To buy a business from someone who's going to bin it anyway. Like, so crazy. But just my thoughts are, I mean, I've thought about this a lot because if I didn't run my business, I'd 100% go and buy one of these. I wouldn't be going and buying a job, like buying a business that's got, $1 million of revenue and got a little bit of profit, because I feel like, you're just buying yourself a job. But if you can buy something with employees,
you're going to give it a crack, give it a solid crack.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, actually,
is
I want
there
to
any-
ask Morello, are there any businesses you think that are easier to manage, more hands off, or alternatively easy to scale? Like, are products easier than services? Like, is there a pro and con of each?
We're seeing a lot of product businesses that have never done online. That's one of the big things that we're seeing here at the Entourage. Like, I think what happens is like they're selling products already and they got no interest in going online. So I think somebody who's got some online nous or education around it, I think there's a big opportunity there.
Yeah, I've seen actually in the Entourage a lot of like where they make like custom built certain things, and like you said,
Yep.
they were previously not even doing it online. It was just like
They
word of
weren't,
mouth.
but now that makes up 80% of their revenue. We're talking
Yeah,
80,
automating it online.
$85 million businesses that are selling online now because like they never had anyone to tell them that. Like they're great visionaries or great integrators. There's a great book around it's called Rocket Fuel by Jenna Wickman around visionaries and integrators. And it's like you get these people that are just like no one's ever told them, like, you've been doing this, like, why don't you try something online? Oh, my product doesn't sell online. And I'm like, well, I disagree. Like, have you tried? And then they try and they're like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. We did $30 million in online sales. I'm like, okay, like that's what happened. Like once you start to get better around like cost per lead, cost per acquisition, return on ad spend, then you can start to, really refine your product to make sure it answers to the consumer's needs.
Yeah,
where's the opportunity? Like, where would you like? You're 22. Morello's back in his 22 youth. He's got $200,000 because he just sold his youth business. Made some coin. What a legend! You're starting today. Where's the opportunity? How would you start this sucker? What would you do?
I bought real estate. Like I love real estate. Like I do.
No,
You boys are real estate guys, so like that's what I bought. So that was my thing. But
not
like,
anymore. Starting
if
over
you,
today.
yeah, if you're really passionate about, no, I got to say my advice, this is official Morello advice. I would still say buy real estate. Like that's my first point of contact. But like if you are open-minded to having something a little bit risky, if you're 22, you should be very okay to risk. I think there's an opportunity to in this market to take bricks and mortar into online. Like I'm seeing it right now with some pretty serious operators that have bought like literally butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. Maybe not the candlestick maker, but the butcher and the baker. Robbie Perina, Glenorrey Bakery, going Bobby Bakehouse and scaling that from a multiple location point of view. We got Berkey's down in Melbourne, another bakery. Like it's like I look at those guys and go, was $1 million business. They took the 4 million overnight, doing wholesale and online sales. So yeah, if you're serious about being a business owner, you're ready to have a crack. Like I think that's where your opportunity is.
Without sounding too airy fairy, like because we've had lots of philosophical chats over a drink and things like that.
And also in the jungle of Papua New Guinea. But anyway, continue. That was over 2-minute noodles in the jungle.
That's right. 2-minute noodles and cans of salmon for 7 days straight. Yeah, you've got to, I think, assess your why or why you're even buying this business. Because like we all three of us know, like you go put 100 grand in shares and you get a 20% return. You're like, oh, awesome. Then what? You still got to find some form of passion from something. So you got to do something with your money. And that's what I love. You actually have a passionate kind of thing about everything you do with business, Morello. And I think you got to weave that into business ownership as well.
100%. Like if you don't love what you're going to have a crack at, then like you probably shouldn't do it. But I've seen some really good people that they also love business, Steve. I'm going to slightly push back on you there and say like they just love the chase, right? Like it's a very inappropriate comment, but like you meet the guy or the girl who just loves chasing, like being on the chase, and then they get the beautiful wife or the beautiful husband, and they're like, I just love the chase, and I'm like, okay, well, I think human nature, sadly, but also positively, is a big part of that.
Yeah, I think there's certain type of people, like me and Joe are very similar. Like I always wanted to own a business, even when I was working.
Joe and I, by the way.
I'm sorry, Joe.
We've
all, like, since I've known Joe, we've spoken about like, working for yourself, doing something. So I think there's got to be an innate thing in the actual people. I get the same.
But also, I wasn't very entrepreneurial when I was like, I listened to you, Morello. You said I'm 14. I was doing this, and this, and so I want to let people know you can start at 30, you can start at 40, you can start at
68.
I started a business at 33, 34. Like,
but with a beard like that, you can start a business at any age.
But I guess that's the point just to make, is that you don't have to be an all-time entrepreneurial. Now, don't get me wrong, I was reading finance and property and books and things like that. But the reason I love property is not because I care about bricks and mortar. It's because I care about money and finance and leverage. And I see the opportunity that property can give you by buying a $500,000 property and it growing $800,000, and all you have put into it is $100,000. Are you kidding me? That's why I love property. It's not
I always get the like armchair developer who says, I want to be a developer. And I'm like, you probably don't. You probably just want to say you're a developer and get the reap the benefits at the end. Property development is
I agree with
as you know, Morello.
I agree. Like, that's anyway. Let's not get into that. There's some inappropriate.
It's always that one deal. Yeah. Okay, so we'll run to our final sponsor, but I do want people to throw some comments and questions in here before we wrap up. I also think that we should cut, if we can, Morello, go back to that technician, manager, leader, business owner, investor framework, because I think that messed up a little bit. We'll run this ad and then we'll go through like how to think about it as an investor, business owner, investor, and what that kind of looks like.
Everywhere you look, someone else is making money in property except for you. Your mate, he just bought a house that's already gone up $100,000. There's some bloke on Facebook, he's bragging about pulling in a 7% rental yield. Meanwhile, you're stuck scrolling real estate and domain, confused as hell and having no idea about where to start. Or maybe you're that mate that's got $100,000 in equity. You have a few properties under your belt, but you feel stuck. You're unsure about how to scale without over-leveraging and not knowing what the next right move is. So why does it feel like everyone else has some kind of secret that you're missing out on? It's because they do. There's a reason some people keep stacking properties while others sit on the sidelines stacking excuses. There's a reason why some investors buy under market value while others pay too much. There's a reason why investors know the hot spots before there's any heat. And there's a reason that some people build $150,000 in passive income while others just spend years thinking about it. And it comes down to knowledge. And that's exactly why Jeff Miles and I, Joe Tucker, created the Level Up Property course to hand you the exact step-by-step process that we've used to buy over $100 million worth of property in today's market. We've built Australia's largest property investment community with over 80,000 members, and we help everyday investors secure hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, all without wasting years of their life trying to figure it out the hard way. Making an uneducated decision on the biggest purchase in your life is just gambling with your future.
Stop it. Get some help.
And this isn't just another how to buy property course. Let's be clear though, this course isn't free. What? And neither should it be. This is our life's work. We've spent over 100 hours each on this course alone. Oh, babe. Okay, video number 3. Number 4 with million does... Done. We've got decades of experience, millions of dollars in deals distilled into a repeatable process that you can take away for yourself. If you're looking for free advice, there's plenty of noise out there. You can go and find that if you'd like. But if you want real, actionable, step-by-step guided process that works in today's market, then this investment is going to change everything for you. By the time that you finish this course, you will have full confidence. You'll have every tool that you need to build an amazing portfolio if you act on it, right? Which is why we have mentoring built in. So we kick you up the butt to make sure that you're kicking your goals. So the real question is, how much longer are you going to watch everyone else making money in property before you jump in and start playing the property game properly? Because the sooner you start winning.
Okay. No, we're back. Okay, Morello, you got that.
Oh yeah, we bring it up.
Yeah, let's bring it up. Okay, here we are. This is you. We've got your triangle. Okay, technician. Are you talking?
I'm just getting it up
okay.
for us.
While Morello's
Yeah.
drawing,
I'm just getting it up, bro.
Yeah. I'd actually say for someone who's got a 9-to-5 job already and they are looking to buy a business, where should they slot it into these 4 hats typically if they are buying a business?
I think it's actually a really good question. I think the problem they've got is they're going to need to actually play in the least the manager space for a big part of it. So I get a lot of great people that are like, I bought this business, or I'm interested in, like, I've started this business, but I'm not in there on a 9-to-5 on a Monday to Friday situation. I do it out of hours, and like I can take a call during the day, and that's fine. So what ends up happening is this becomes their focus. They're not here. Right. But I feel like there's a lot of benefit to here if you're actually like really serious about the business. Right. So like even if you're come from, like PwC or Ernst & Young or Telstra or whatever, or with some bank, and then you go buy a business, I'm like, well, you probably should go learn how to make the coffee. And they're like, oh, what do you mean? I don't want to make coffees. I'm like, I know that, but I feel like you should learn how to make the coffee. Like, I don't know. It might be the Morello way of life, but I feel like, I pump petrol at my dad's service station, right? And it made me who I was today, right? And then you go like manager, like I think this is very much in the early stage. Then, this is where they should be aiming for. And this is where they should be like the ultimate, like, let's call it 12 to 36 month, future.
Actually, I've got 2 questions I want to ask. So this is like me personally. So I go to a gym called BFT, which is a franchise. It's kind of like the new age F40.
I know Haley Genovese.
Yeah, and I know people in the entourage own multiple franchises, and your best mate owns gyms and things like that. So I've looked at that and been like, oh, I love the gym.
He's the chairman of Fitstop.
Yeah,
that you just met before. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the gyms. I'm there every day. I was like, oh, would this be a good business? And I've got the commercial know-how as well in regards to the business. Like I could buy the warehouse and run the BFT, or buy an existing one. Maybe just give me some pros and cons of something like that. And then we can maybe go on to my second question, which is buying into franchises versus non-franchise business.
Yeah. So look, franchise it's a pretty complicated situation, and this once again is not advice. Like I just want to make it very clear. Like I've been a franchisor and a franchisee, and in my office right now is the ex-global CEO of Zambrero, the Mexican food chain, Stuart Cook. He's also the chairman of the board for Fitstop, the gym chain, right? So he's been on both sides of the spectrum. We actually own some Fitstop franchisees together. We also own shares in the franchisor. So like there is certainly an element of like, if you're going to own it, I still think you need to be a part of it. Like one of the big misconceptions that franchisors will tell you is that go back to the face. Great.
Yeah.
So one of the big misconceptions that franchisors will tell you is like you can just buy this thing and then you don't have to be there. Like I'm like, I completely disagree 100% as a franchisor and a franchisee. Like if you're serious about this franchisee, you put a good, gym manager, clinic practice manager, clinic manager. We're seeing a lot in the, the injectable space right now where people are buying these franchises and like, they come to us and they're like, oh, I bought this franchise. And why is it not working? I'm like, because no one's there to hold anyone accountable, right? So like, I think like you can't go and skip up the entrepreneurial hierarchy from technician to man. And they're like, but I don't know how to do the injectables. No worries. Then you're the manager, right? You're like 2% technician and you're like 50 or 60 or 70% manager. You need to work on that right now to get that to the next level where you can become a leader and entrepreneur. Then you can buy your second franchise or your third franchise, right? And like good franchisees that own multiple sites, what I realize is they were very good entrepreneurs slash leaders as soon as they bought the place. That's the reality.
It's funny you say that. So I've been training for 20 years now, and every gym I go to, when the manager's there, numbers keep growing, culture's awesome. Then it kind of gets full, and they go, "Oh, I'll open another one." They disappear, numbers start going down, culture dies, and then that gym dies.
Well, look, I've got a silver bullet for that. The silver bullet is tie your gym manager or your practice manager in an injectables place or your so I've got a guy today, Peter down in Melbourne. He's got a GJ Gardner's franchise. He's like, I need a gun salesperson. Tie the salesperson in, tie him in, remove your ego. Like, I think a lot of business owners are very stuck on ego. Like, I think remove your ego and like tie that person in. Like, go,
What does that
either
mean? Tying them in.
buy, earn, or profit share that person. You do that, you won't have the problem.
No, they treat it like their own, because it is.
Correct. But everyone's got too much ego. They're like, oh, I want to own this because I want to give it to my kids. Your kids don't probably want it.
Oh yeah, that's the problem where the boomers are faced with right now.
I know. They probably don't want it.
So is that something that Steve should be thinking, right? Steve loves the gym. He goes to the gym. He understands commercial. Is Steve's next business Palise Fitness? Is that kind of what you're saying, mate? Should I get a franchise?
I've already started the Morello mask industry.
My website, mate. It's 33.
The Venetians. There we go.
There is a great question that's come up here is what type of person shouldn't be a business owner?
I don't know about that, but there's a really good personality test called the DISC profile. So it's definitely worth having a look at that. It's DISC, not DISK. So it's DISC, and it's about like understanding who you are. I think like there's, at the end of the day, I've seen some great business owners that are like, so D's very direct personalities, I's very airy fairy like me. C is very cautious and controlling. S is very safe, right? So like, I think and when you do a DISC profile, they'll often ask you to do like at home and at work. And it's funny because at work, I'm a DI. I'm very direct and airy fairy, very inspirational, right? But at home, I'm an ID, which is like I'm very inspirational at home with my son. But like I'm not very D. Like I'm like I'd let the family dynamic run the way it needs to run, right? So like there's like so if you have never done a DISC profile before, I'm sure you can Google, click on a free link and it'll let you do it.
I just jumped in here, said don't be a business owner if you're an S, apparently.
Well, yeah, I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, sometimes maybe like an S, an S is a good business partner, Elijah. S is a great business partner. Like that's what they do. Like they hold you accountable. Yeah, well, you can be the operator, but you need to be 50-50 with the D or the I. That's my opinion.
One of the other good questions I saw, someone was asking, what's the best way to find a business? Like, is it like a business broker? I personally used to subscribe to all the business brokers, but I found I was killing an hour a day because I was too interested in being like, oh, I can rent wine barrels to weddings and make 20 grand a year. And I was like, actually, no, I don't want to deliver wine barrels to weddings every weekend.
I think business brokers, are underrated in Australia. They've got a bad reputation of like, being what do they call it? Snake oil
Salesman.
salesman. Yeah, but like I think like if you partner with a good business broker, he or she will bring great opportunities to you. Like, it's like anything in life,
It's like a
guys.
buyer's agent, right?
You're
Like,
correct. It's like a buyer's agent. Like, like they've got a job to do, but at the end of the day, like I think if you win them over, spend a bit of time, like, Ford, I call it F. Yeah, wait, can I go back to this?
Yeah, go back to the iPad.
All right, guys. So this is a
There you go. There's a blank section.
there you go.
Here we go.
This is FORD. So this is family, occupation, recreation, dreams. So everyone, sorry, I can't spell. Everybody I ever speak to in life, I subconsciously do this now. This has come off my first coach. His name is Chris Helder. When I was 17 years old, I got my first coach when I was 17, guys. My first coach when I was 17. Like that, I want that to have some gravitas to you, because if you don't have a coach in some way, shape, or form, property, business, life, like, what are you doing? Like, you're a second trader. Like, that's what it is. Like, you're picking up the leftovers from everyone else, right? So my first coach, Chris Helder, taught me this. He said, Ford, easy acronym. I said, I'm a Holden man. Crack the shits, but anyway, don't worry about that. So family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. If you can actually build rapport with somebody, your buyer's agent, your business broker, and you ask them, tell me about your family. Oh, I've got a beautiful son. His name's Lion Mane Morello. Done. Like, and I'll talk for hours on this kid. And you say, what's your occupation? Oh, we got this business called the Entourage. It's great. You should really get a part of it. Rada. 3, recreation. Oh, I'm going to go, do this. Like, my son's playing football representative, and we're going to buy what we're going to buy because we're going to buy a new house because of that. Last but not least is Mr. and Mrs. vendor, Mr. and Mrs. business owner, Mr. and Mrs. whatever it might be, or Mr. and Mr. or Mrs. and Mrs. How can Andrew Morello and the Entourage, or Andrew Morello and Jealous Craig, help you to achieve your dreams, right? And if you don't feel comfortable saying with dreams, say like, how can we help you achieve your goals or milestones or whatever? Like, some people go to me, oh, it's not something I would say. I'm like, all right, whatever, man. Like, don't say it. Like, come up with your own word. And they're like, oh,
Yeah, what lights you up? What is the thing that gets you up in the morning?
Or if they're in a conservative, but if they're in a conservative environment, so like I've worked with a lot of people that are quite conservative, and they're like, oh, we could do goals. I'm like, great, use the word goals.
Yeah.
But and I like to ask this question. I like to ask this question is like, I like to ask like, I like to go 3 things. I like to ask like,
well, this is a great framework. This Ford thing is a great framework of like how to introduce and speak to people as well. Like, even I don't even know if you know this, but you did it when we first met. You're like, oh, great. So Joe, do you have any kids? You obviously knew what my occupation is, and you started like going through this without even realizing.
Did I? Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize. See, I didn't even realize, bro.
It's a great way to just kind of like, if anyone's out there that is not in sales, that is not, they don't feel like they're the best person, person's person. Just think of Ford. Maybe you're a Holden guy, maybe you're a Holden girl, but Ford, family, occupation, that'll be able to get you rapport quickly. So what have we got here? We've got reduce, embrace.
So we got reduce. If anyone's writing this down, reduce buyer resistance, number 1.
Yeah.
So you want to reduce buyer resistance. Number 2 is you want to increase buyer acceptance or embrace buyer acceptance. And then last but not least is you want to seek permission, right? So like, I think it's a very missing pertinent point with what's happening in the world that we live in. Everyone just tries to sell all the time, online, fucking whatever it is. Like they're just like trying to sell. And I'm like, maybe you don't sell. Maybe you actually seek permission so you can take them on the journey that they're wanting to go on.
What are some techniques for seeking permission?
I say the words, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, Mr. and Mrs. Client, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner. I know you've been looking at the Entourage or Jealous Craig or whatever business it might be for a while now, and now you're here. But with your permission, I would like to actually take you on the journey to actually elevate you to the next level. And like I ask them, and they go, "Oh, yeah, we're keen as mustard," or "We're thinking about it," or like they tell you.
Yeah. I'll tell you why. What I'm struggling with right now. I'm thinking that actually it's not the right time. Okay, what does that mean? And
no worries, done. No, but like I'm always happy to hear that, and like no worries. We've been here 16 years. We're going to be for another 16 years. Come back and talk to us when you're ready. Like it's.
Yeah,
fear of no loss.
Steve, can you talk to this one? Like I feel like you've recently gotten into business mentoring and business coaching. Like, what does it mean for you? How has it helped you, and how should we think about it? So, because can you talk to that situation? Because it's interesting for me on the outside. Sorry, I'm now going to keep talking. I used to see business coaching as like, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to figure this out for myself. And what I'm kind of seeing now is that, like exactly like what you said, Steve, right at the beginning, you're at the staircase, and why are you every step of the way tripping up and falling down to then go up again? Why am I not speaking to someone to say, hey, I see that you just walked up those stairs real easy. You're 5 steps ahead of me. I'd love to be where you are. But why do I keep tripping up? But how do you think about it, Steve?
The funny thing is, like Evan Morello is like a business coach. It's all fairly obvious. The problem is when you're in your head, you don't actually see it from the outside. You're stuck in your ways. And I used to think like running the best business meant I'm going to be the most successful. And what I mean by that is my processes, the quality of properties. But then like the Entourage said that, they say, who makes the best, who's the most famous burger fast food chain in the world? And then I was like, McDonald's. Do they make the best burgers? No. So there's more to that. But I take that with a little bit of grain of salt, because I actually want to do good for my clients as well. It's not just about scaling, making money.
But I think it's a hybrid of the two.
Yeah, I think I can feel personally, emotionally like I've won, and then professionally I can win as well. But the biggest thing I've taken away is you're not necessarily in the product, you're selling the end goal. And Morello touched on it with the dreams, the dream part. Finding out someone's why is the thing. Yeah. And that's very hard to implement in a business, being like, well, how do we implement the person's dream into the business? And that can be through your sales pitch, through your marketing, through how you perceive yourself as an actual business. I saw a Mark Burus interview actually, which was quite good, where they'll ask him about like, he was talking to Kerry Packer, and Kerry Packer said, "Oh, what business are you in?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm in the mortgage business." And you're like, "No, you're not.
Goes,
you're in the home dream selling business."
Yeah. You're in the dreams business. That's what it was. Yeah.
So how do we, I guess, and has it unlocked much for you, Steve? Like, has this mentally unlocked things, or like, what has it actually done? Like,
the biggest change for me is because I was an engineer for 10 years. I thought process, skill, and technical was what I had to showcase. So every call, I'd have an hour and a half call, and I've seen you do this early on as well, Joe. I explain like why I can pick the hot spots and the data I look at, and I go through the due diligence report, yada, yada, yada. That actually wasn't increasing conversion at all, even in building trust. It actually put more fear into people, because they're looking at all these things of like, this is what I can stuff up. So then if you can focus on the end goal being like, this is what we actually want to achieve, we've got the solidified, proven process to get there. And then all of a sudden that hour and a half pitch can go down to 45 minutes with the same outcome. And you can focus more time on the forward.
Okay. Yeah. That's
But
good.
I want to touch on one point because you asked it. The biggest thing for me, anyway, personally, for having a business coach, is accountability. Because once every couple of weeks you have a meeting, and they say, "What do you want to work on the next couple of weeks?" and you go, "I'm going to work on this, this, and this." You know, full well,
you're going to get ass whipped.
Yep, in full well in 2 weeks' time, you have to go with your tail between your legs, being like, "Nah, went to Croatia for the weekend, didn't get to it." But there's some form of accountability.
It's a
Love
great
it.
thing.
Andrew, Morello, this has been an unreal session. Thank you so much for taking. And so sorry, we've actually gone well over time. I didn't even realize.
I've enjoyed it so much.
Well, you've got so many. Like, I appreciate you. Like you just got a vast wealth. Like you are wide on all of these different topics, and you've given so much knowledge on that. So thank you. How do people learn more about you or get more Morello in their life, or if they are wanting to, take their business side of things to the next level, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so obviously they can follow myself on social media, and maybe the boys will tag me in this, and they can put my social media like tags and all that. And we're always happy to talk to anyone. If you're a business owner and you're watching this, so if you are a business owner and a property investor, or just a business owner only, and you're doing over 200K, like feel free to click the link. I think the boys are going to put it in there. Click the link and book in a 90-minute complimentary, obligation-free complimentary chat. Let's just talk through what you're doing at a technician, manager, leader, and entrepreneur level. Let's talk through those 6 elements. And if it's a nice fit, then great. If not, then stay posted, and let's as I said, the meaning to life is the people we meet and what we create with them. I met Steve at 2:00 in the morning in Sydney, and he ended up doing the Kokoda Trail with me. So I'd love to meet amazing more people and go do the magic. Thanks very much.
That's a great way to end it. Steve, thank you very much for being part of this.
Quick plug for Morello, though. As a business coach, you're probably going to find it hard to find a business coach that's that involved in property with the history of property as well. So if you're especially part of this group, you're obviously a lover of property. That's why you're here watching this one. Probably a good person to have a chat with, because I can also talk about tailoring business profits into property.
Yeah.
We didn't even speak about that. That was we should have spoken about that. But that's for the next session, mate. We're going to have to get you on and chat through it. We may even have an Oz Property live session where we will go face-to-face and run a proper live deep dive. So if you guys have enjoyed this, let us know. Throw in the comments, do all of that good stuff. Not Mr. Morello. Andrew Morello, bro. Thank you very much, guys. Let's go buy a property. Let's go buy a business. See you later.
Thanks very much.